A spectacular Friday night at Harvard. We're ready for football under the lights at Tim Murphy Field at Harvard Stadium. Cornell has made the trip from Ithaca to take on the Crimson and Jaden Craig, their fantastic quarterback. It's the Big Red and the Crimson. Game 2 for these two teams of their Ivy League schedules. So far, Harvard has looked like the best team in the Ivy League. They are 1-0, as is Penn, as is Princeton, as is Yale. Cornell looking for their first conference win and their first win overall this season. It is great to have you with us. With Jack Ford, I am Eric Freed. We were here in November for the game, Yale and Harvard. Harvard co-champions of the Ivy League. They were denied an outright championship. That stung, and I think they look like a very motivated team to run the table in the Ivy League this year.
You said before they're on a mission. They indeed are. They were the preseason favorite, strong preseason favorite to win the league, and they've lived up to that so far in their first 3 games, both on offense and on defense. The offense has been historic. They have rung up 159 points in 3 games. That per game average, 53, is second in the nation. It's also the most points Harvard has scored in the first 3 games since 1887. And the engine that's driving this offensive machine is number 1. Quarterback Jaden Craig, preseason All-American, preseason Walter Payton Award watch list for the top offensive player in FCS. He was a finalist for that last year. And as good as he was last year, both his numbers and his coaches tell us he's even better this year. He's completing nearly 75% of his passes, thrown 9 touchdowns already, and really hasn't played full games in any of these 3. So the feeling around here at Harvard is that this Harvard team, this powerful Harvard team, will go as far this season as number 1 will take them.
No questions at quarterback for Harvard. Lots of questions at quarterback for Cornell. Both have played this season. They're still trying to figure out who their primary signal caller is going to be.
Yeah, you know, they were blessed with the last 3.5 years with one of the best quarterbacks who ever played for Cornell and Jamison Wong. He graduated. They've been using these 2 guys, number 8, Garrett Basilpizio, and number 14, Devin Page. Both of them, according to the coaches, they're juniors, they're both talented, but neither of them has any meaningful minutes in a game for almost 3 years since they were seasoned in high school. They've been inconsistent. They put up 9 interceptions. The hope is they're going to go with number 8 tonight. The hope is they'll develop some consistency and establish an offense.
We're ready to play. Harvard dominating the all-time series. They've won 5 in a row, and they won the toss. They elected to defer, so they'll kick it off to Cornell. We are underway here at Tim Murphy Field, and it'll be a touchback. And Cornell will bring the offense onto the field first, and bringing them onto the field for the first time in his collegiate career, Beto Basilpizio. Yes, Garrett Basilpizio goes by Beto, so he wants Beto. Beto it is. He came in last week against Colgate when Devin Page, a starter, threw interceptions on his first 2 pass attempts. And Basilpizio did some good things for Cornell. They're piling up the yards. They just can't take care of the football right now.
They can't control it. You look at him, he's big. He's 6'5". They want him to bring some consistency to this offense because they feel they have some talent.
They go to the ground on first down, and getting tripped up is Robert Tucker III, the senior from San Diego. His 30th carry of the season. Cornell is banged up. They're without Ian Pope and Gannon Carruthers, a couple of guys who we'd be talking about out of the backfield. They're without Sam Masungu, who would be their number 1 receiver, out for the season with an ACL injury after 83 catches a year ago.
They have talent on this side of the ball, but it's so frustrating that they've experienced so many injuries. They're hoping that some of the younger guys now will be able to step up.
Second down and 9. They go with the inside handoff to Doran Smith, senior from Martinsburg, West Virginia, who has caught 17 passes on the season. Second on the team, goes to the ground. Sean Line with a stop, and a 3rd and long coming up.
Doran Smith is the guy who is their star on the outside. He's been lighting it up for Cornell for a couple of seasons now. You mentioned already has 17 receptions. He got great speed. He can high point the ball. He was a high jump high school champion. So I would suspect they're going to see them trying to get the ball into his hands as much as possible tonight.
3rd down. The pass, it's a good one. It's on target, and it's good for a first down. Javon Broussard, the freshman from Marietta, Georgia, with his 9th reception of the season.
Here's what Vito shows you. First of all, plenty of protection from that offensive line. Gives them all sorts of time, steps up, delivers the ball, and is a great start for this Cornell offense to deliver on their first series of downs and to move the chains.
Against the Harvard defense, giving up under 13 points a game. That's 4th in FCS football. 231 yards per game. That's 3rd in FCS. So an early first down for Cornell. 2nd and 9 coming up. Little shovel, ball's on the ground. This has been the big issue. Picked up by Harvard. Austin Jake Guillory is gone. Touchdown, Crimson. Turnover 11 on the season for Cornell, and Harvard takes it in for 6.
If you're Coach Dan Swanstrom, you have to be looking at this saying, all right, we get a first down. We move the chains. We're looking good. We're getting consistency, which is what they want, at least in that first series. And then you see this. And it's just fake pitch, a little bit behind, but not a real problem. You would have expected him to get the ball, but here is the problem. You got to just drop on top of that ball. You can't try to pick it up and make something positive. Sometimes you just got to say, all right, let's put this away. Let's live to play another day, but not jumping on it gives Harvard then an opportunity to pick that up and do, Eric, what you said has been done to Cornell so far, turnovers and points off of the turnovers.
All right, for the moment, it is a fumble return, 39 yards for a touchdown, but they are looking at it in video review. Was it perhaps a forward pass? Now, to your original point, ball's on the ground and you're having trouble with ball security, fall on it. Don't try to make something out of it. But if we take another look, does this go forward here, Jack?
Yeah, because it fakes really to nobody. You know what? If the pitch was where it was supposed to be, out in front, I think it clearly would have been forward. The pitch, as we mentioned, was kind of on the back shoulder of the running back. And we're not sure how the officials are going to look at that. Remember, it's the spot that it leaves here, the quarterback's hands, and the spot where it's first touched by the receiver or running back. Take another look. So his right foot is...
to me, it looks like it goes from the 39 back to the 38 and a half or the 38. Yeah. If it's anywhere even or back, it's a fumble. It has to be forward from the line of scrimmage.
Right.
That's what they're looking right now. Corey Hansen is our referee.
Yeah, I think your read on it is correct. Not that you're not always correct, of course. But I think your read on it is correct.
You can sell it.
It just, you know, again, and it's just those little things. If the pitch was where it's supposed to be.
Review. The ruling on the field is upheld. It is a touchdown.
It's those little things for an offense that's struggling. Get the pitch out in front of the running back where it belongs. The running back handle it, even if it's a little bit behind him, and this just fall on the ball. Don't try to make a positive play out of it.
Point after is put through by Kieran Core. The last home game for Harvard, the first play from scrimmage was a pick 6 by the linebacker, Dorsey Benenfield. It was a couple of plays into this game, but Austin Jake Guillory, the junior from New Orleans, has the fumble return for the touchdown. And this has been the story for these two teams. Turnover margin, takeaways for Harvard, been huge. They've been so disruptive up front. They're getting the interceptions. They're getting the fumble returns. That is the 11th takeaway for Harvard. And on the other side for Cornell, that's the 11th giveaway for the Big Red. And we're in game number 4 of the season.
And the thing with Harvard and the takeaways, they've converted. They've generated points as a result of the takeaways. And that doesn't always happen. But we've seen it because, again, we talked about the proficiency of this Harvard offense and how good the defense is in terms of being opportunistic and turning these interceptions into immediate touchdowns.
So another kickoff for the Crimson, and another chance here for the Cornell offense. But now down 7-0 here in the first quarter against the Harvard team As Jack mentioned just a few moments ago, they've gone for 59 points in 2 games, averaging 53 points a game through 3 games this season.
Here's what you need now from the Cornell offense. It has to come from number 8. You need him to say, hey, guys, we're good. We were moving the ball. We were fine. I messed up a little bit. We're still good. Settle down. It's early on. We're still in this game.
Play action to Tucker, thrown to the outside, complete to Broussard. The freshman has another catch. Good pickup on first down. Sean Line there on the stop.
So this Harvard defense, we talked about being opportunistic. Usually they're kind of run out of a 3-4. Sometimes they'll bring one more bodies. We have right now, they've got 4 up on the line. They'll show you different looks pre-snap, especially for a new quarterback. Try to confuse them a little bit, and then oftentimes drop back into something else from what they've shown.
Basilpizio with time. Drops one in again to Broussard, turning into his preferred receiver so far. Basilpizio against Colgate was 23 of 38, 225 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. And talking about his size, carried it 8 times for 91 yards. Tough to bring down.
And he's looked calm so far. He's delivered the ball where it has to be. You know, with the exception of that fumble, obviously that hurt. But I think you have to be impressed by his presence so far. Remember, these guys, he and Devin Page, haven't played meaningful minutes in almost 3 years. And here he is against a nationally ranked Harvard defense.
That one is going to be incomplete. Second down and 10 coming up. Dan Swanstrom, the head coach for Cornell, said that Basilpizio, good athlete, runs really well. Talked a lot about his personality. Great personality, great guy to talk to. And you can sense he's a junior. He's been around the program, waiting for his time. Some good leadership qualities have to be there when you're a quarterback.
Yeah, he has all the potential. Both of them have great potential. The coaches have said that. Great talent, great potential. They just need the game experience.
Second and 10. Pressure coming from Harvard. Once again, a reception by Broussard. That goes for 5. Zayden Benson on the stop. Third down coming up.
Broussard has already caught 8 balls so far. He's a high school track star, so they're looking to get him out into some open space here offensively.
Well, he's got 4 today, so give him 12 for the season. He's out of Marietta, Georgia. Basilpizio will go to the ground, but the Harvard defense stretches it out. It's going to be a gain of about 2. Benefield there on the stop, and a 4th down and 2.5, maybe 3 coming up for Cornell in their own territory, and they'll punt.
It's hard to run wide on this Harvard defense. They've got a strong, disruptive front defensive line, but they have linebackers who can run sideline to sideline. That's been a hallmark of these Harvard defenses in the last decade or 2. And even though these are new guys in these linebacker positions, they have the same ability to run sideline to sideline.
Will Buck on the punt. Speedy Cam Henry back for the return. And it's headed towards the Cornell sideline, so Henry will not get a chance to show off that speed. And Harvard will bring their offense onto the field for the first time. We get our first look at Jaden Craig at quarterback when we come back. Dominant start to the season for the Harvard Crimson. They started on the road with a 59-7 win over Stetson. They were up 45-0 at halftime. Home opener against Brown, a pick 6, as I mentioned, on the first play from scrimmage, and they are off and running for the victory. And speaking of off and running, that was the case in Worcester last week. 59-24 was the final. Harvard up 38-3 at halftime. 7 different players scored. 9 different players caught a pass. Jaden Craig has spread the wealth, and this is a very wealthy team. They have depth and talent everywhere.
And it's young talent. They lost a lot from last year, but it's been surprising to me how quickly the young talent has stepped in to carry the load.
Starting at the 21-yard line, first possession for Harvard, and Craig looking out towards the marker. That's going to be enough for a first down. Dean Boyd pulls it in, the senior from Boardman, Ohio, who in his previous 3 seasons had 1 catch for 26 yards and a touchdown. That was as a sophomore. This is a Harvard team that lost some talented receivers, and Craig hasn't missed a beat.
And you look at that throw, that's an NFL throw. They want to see how you throw from the hash marks to the sideline. NFL scouts have been all over this place looking at Jaden Craig.
Craig gives it out to Cam Henry, and Henry gets tripped up. Good defensive play. Kandakai Sherman Jr., the sophomore. First one there. There he is, number one. He's going to step off the field after making that tackle.
You mentioned these receivers, Eric, and interestingly, they've developed. They're not young guys. They've been in the program for a lot of years, but now they're getting their opportunity to play, and they developed well enough so that they are performing really well on this stage.
To the ground, Exavea Bascon. Cornell swarming defensively. Keith Williams Jr. First one there, and a third down coming up for the Crimson.
Here's the thing about this Cornell defense. It's a solid defense. You might think, wait a minute, they're 0-3. How solid can they be? But if you look, they're only giving up 153 yards a game in the air. That's not a lot. Giving up a little bit more on the ground, 163. But they have been solid, but they've been playing with their backs to the wall because of the turnovers that have been generated by the offense.
Their 11th turnover of the season was returned for a touchdown here in the first quarter. Third and short. Craig has a lot of time. He is hit as he throws. That's just the third time he's been hit, and a good effort by Bascon, the running back, to fight forward for the first down. Craig has not been sacked. Harvard's offensive line hasn't given up a sack, and Andy Arick told us he's only been hit twice. That's the third time he's been hit this year.
That's an astonishing statistic to me. For your quarterback to be hit only 3 times so far in your first 4 games. But again, it's an evidence of how strong this offensive line, and it's a rebuilt offensive line. They lost half of it from last year, and yet the coach says this offensive line might even be better than last year.
Those hits include plays for the backup quarterbacks who have seen a lot of time so far this year. Craig has played 8 quarters. He hasn't played the second half of 2 of the first 3 games.
You see, he's delivered. Good throw. Through the hands. I'm sure the receiver's going to look at the film saying, oh man, this is like Brady Blackburn, who has stepped up for them so far this year. Again, a new guy. He's had 9 receptions coming into this game. He had last year caught 4 passes, but now these guys are all on a bigger stage, and they're delivering on this bigger stage.
Blackburn, 5 catches, 114 yards in that Holy Cross win last Saturday. Bascon up the middle. Cornell there again to force a third down for the Crimson, short of midfield.
This offense has been, we talked about how explosive it's been, but it's also been so balanced. So take a look at here. You get pulling, the tight end coming from right to left, good push on the left side of the offensive line. There are, according to Coach Orrick, 5 running backs on this team who he said would start for just about every other Ivy League team. So it's a testament to the depth of this program and how they develop these guys. You know, Ivy League is different. They're not bringing in a whole lot of transfers, some occasional transfers, but they develop their players over the years, and you're seeing this here with this Harbor offense.
Craig on third down. Looks long, and it is broken up. Jumping in was Braylon Howard, the junior from Starkville, Mississippi. 2-year starter for this Cornell team in the secondary. Got there defensively to knock it away and forces Harvard to punt.
That's exactly what Cornell needed. They needed to hold. They needed somebody to show up and make a play. 7 did, and now they're going to get the ball back. You know, it can be soul crushing for them to give up that first touchdown on that fumble. But so far, it looks like Cornell has settled down, certainly on defense.
Dylan Fingers handling the punting for Harvard as Brendan Lee lets it bounce out of bounds, and Cornell will bring the offense back on the field. 7-0 Harvard, first quarter on a Friday night. Andy Orrick, the Harvard head coach, on the rights. You're judged by Ivy League championships when you're the head coach of Harvard, and in his first year, mission accomplished. Ivy co-champs a season ago with Dartmouth and Columbia. Here he is in year 2, and this looks to be a better team. Now, just to be perfectly clear, the combined current record of the first 4 opponents for Harvard, 4-14. Schedule is what it is, but when you see stats and placements that stand out like that, you're doing something right.
Can't argue against those numbers.
No.
And it's an indication of how strong this team has been this early in the season.
Sulpizio trying to get out of trouble, has a little bit of an opening, and will tuck it away. Big man who looks for contact, draws a contact from Jack Donahoe, dishes it out as well. Sulpizio with a 19-yard run, first down for Cornell.
And that's exactly what Coach Dan Swanson was hoping he would give them. We've seen his arm. He can deliver in the pocket, but now since the guy is 6'5". He's 6'5", 230 pounds, and he finishes this run like a running back. He punishes the safety rather than letting the safety punish him. So it's this kind of spark that they're hoping he will provide to this Cornell offense, and then hopefully do away with the turnovers.
Making his first collegiate start here today. Looks like a called run. He'll push forward for a couple. Jake Kinlock there on the stop. Opener at Albany, he and Devin Page split time. He was 8 of 14, Sulpizio was, for 63 yards. But the next week at Yale, just over 2. It was more of the Devin Page show, and then Page got to start again for the third straight week. Last week against Colgate, but ineffective at the beginning. Sulpizio came on, now gets the start here today. Flea flicker here, he's got it back, and down he goes. Harvard was ready for it, and their guy who gets to the quarterback more than anyone else, Alex DeGreek, gets there for his 3rd sack of the season.
Alex DeGreek coming hard off of the right side of the offense. His blocker can't hold him long enough. You see, he just fights his way through, powers his way through. Here's the problem with a flea flicker. You need time for it to develop downfield. Alex DeGreek made sure there was not going to be enough time for this to develop, but he just threw his blocker to the side. He's the only returning guy really in this front 7 for Harvard from last year's team.
5th sack allowed by Cornell this season. 3rd down and long. Flag is down for holding. The pass is complete to Parker Woodring, but this is going to come back. Tyler Dunn back at left tackle after missing the Colgate game with an injury. I think he's the one who's the culprit here.
Holding. Offense, number 72. 10-yard penalty. 3rd down.
Clearly it's not what you want to see from Cornell, but you still have to look at so far how the quarterback, number 8's been doing here. His presence in the pocket, I think, has been impressive. Again, remember, he's played half of the games of the first 3, but no real game experience for almost 3 years. And yet we're seeing him, now probably the hold helped a little bit, but he had some presence in the pocket, found an opening to get out and deliver the ball. He has found his receivers. He looks like he's working on his checkdowns and his options to get the ball to somebody who's open.
4 of 5 passing so far, all 4 completions to Broussard, and he's going to kick it away. No one back, and a bad break for Cornell as that one spun backwards instead of rolling forward as he kicked on 3rd and long. So Sulpizio will come off, and Harvard will bring the offense onto the field.
So that's some old-time football, kicking on 3rd, right? You go back into the 40s and the 50s and even the 30s, and routinely the offense is what, even on the 3rd and maybe 15, you hear all the stories about this, the great old Army teams in the 40s and the great Oklahoma teams, and routinely what they would do is, all right, we got long 3rd, we'll kick it. Let the defense come in and carry it. Not something that we see that often on the 3rd and 25.
Something Jaden Craig has done this year for Harvard.
And has done very well, by the way.
We talked about the scoring 53 points a game. Craig throwing to the outside, completes out to the 45 and into Cornell territory goes Caden Kaufman, gain of 9.
We mentioned Jaden Craig's numbers this year. I mean, he had an outstanding year last year. He completed about 60% of his passes. He's completing nearly 75% of his passes this season. And the coaches have talked about how he's gotten so much better about his reads and his progressions and not trying to force the ball and finding an open guy. And they're not just checkdowns for a couple of yards. As you see, he's averaging close to 300 yards a game.
4 for 6 so far here tonight. Make it 5 for 7 as that pass is complete. Had success against Cornell last year in that victory in Ithaca. Craig was 20 of 27, 316 yards, 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. By the way, he has not thrown a pick so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, the season he is having so far is a storybook season. We talked about how he's improved across the board with all of his numbers, even though he had an exceptional season last year. And we've seen it on the field so far as he's delivered.
DJ Gordon in the backfield with Craig. First down and 10 for the Crimson, up 7-0 here in the first quarter. Craig throws underneath to Gordon, who will take it down to the 33-yard line.
DJ Gordon, an interesting guy. We talked with Coach about him there. He's the fastest guy on this Harvard team. And they're trying to figure out ways to get the ball in his hands. So what they do is they put him as a running back. He finds a little opening in the zone, picks up the ball. What they need him to do is just make one guy miss, and then you'll see that speed deliver. So don't be surprised to see them trying to get the ball in 18's hands as often as they possibly can in many different ways tonight.
2nd and 4. Craig looking left, throwing, and another completion. They say forward progress was stopped, so no free ball here. Seamus Gilmartin, the tight end, junior from Hillsborough, California, leading receiver for Harvard.
Forward progress was stopped.
Coming into this game, has the reception. Forward progress was stopped.
Seeing that was a problem with coverage because the outside guy lets the inside guy go. The inside guy picks him up, but they don't get the outside guy picking up the receiver.
Gordon looking for an opening. So Gordon gets the handoff. He is listed as a quarterback on the roster, and you asked Andy Ulrich about that. It's like, well, we envision a Charles DePrima role perhaps for DJ Gordon, which is high praise after some of the games we watched DePrima have for Harvard, including against Cornell here 2 years ago.
Yeah, Charles DePrima was a National Player of the Week in 1 week for his ability to run. He was then the fastest guy on the Harvard team, so they're hoping to use DJ Gordon in very much the same way.
Craig rolling, looking back towards Gordon. Pressure coming. Craig can really run and scramble and bought some time, but throws it incomplete in the end zone.
So we talked about Gordon. That was designed to be a throwback to the left to DJ Gordon. And what happened is you can see the Cornell defense sensed it. So what they did is they took away the throwback to the left side to DJ Gordon. And Jaden Craig, with that exceptional athletic ability, gets around to the right side and almost makes something out of that play. Great coverage by Cornell. They didn't give up on the coverage, even though the play was busted. It was not what they were looking to do. They were looking for that throwback to the left side. So far, good coverage by this Cornell team. They got to take away what Harvard's been doing, which are those 10-yard outs so far.
Harvard 1 for 2 on 3rd down. They go to the ground. The handoff to Jordan Harris, who's pushed back, and he did not get to the marker. He's about a yard short. Now, Andy Ulrich and this Harvard team has been very aggressive on 4th down. Probably leave the offense on the field here, you would think.
Yeah, he said that to us when we talked to him the other day. He said, look, everybody talks about analytics. We've become very aggressive on our 4th down plays. 4th and 1, you'd expect that, but don't be surprised if we find ourselves with them looking at 4th and 4, 4th and 5, and they still decide to go.
Pistol, Craig with Bascon, and Exavea. Well, I don't know. Cornell was right there. They think they have the stop. Do the officials agree? They do. Cornell's defense comes up clutch on 4th down. Michael O'Keefe, one of the captains for this Cornell team, one of the first out to celebrate after that stop. So Harvard goes for it. They are denied. Good push by that Cornell defense. Everybody getting in there. Our Saturday SEC on ABC College Football tripleheader starts with number 8 Alabama, number 14 Mizzou, noon Eastern time, then the 121st Red River rivalry game at the Cotton Bowl, Oklahoma and Texas, and then 7:30 Eastern time, number 10 Georgia on the road at Auburn. Alabama 4-1, Mizzou 5-0. The last time the Tigers beat the Crimson Tide? Trivia question. You're a history guy. What? Give me a guess, Jack Ford. 1975 is the last time Mizzou beat Bama.
All right, I was going to go like in the 60s,
oh,
late
okay.
60s.
I didn't give you a chance to give the
really
answer.
strong teams, but that's not a surprise. And you look at that game. They're talking about that being the biggest game in Missouri in decades for the reason you just said. Oklahoma and Texas. There's been talk that John Mateer is going to try to get back to play in this game. The Red River rivalry,
yes,
which is such a test of our ability to speak.
You
handled it really well.
Yes.
I was very impressed by you, by the way. When you talk about Cornell so far, and we've been focusing on the turnovers, if you take the turnovers out, now you can't, of course you can't, speaking of turnovers, fortunately they were able to jump on that. But if you artificially remove the turnovers and just look at the numbers, what this Cornell team has done, they have been effective. Now that can be, here's that with you're switching quarterbacks back and forth. That's trying to get the read down, get the pull down if the quarterback wants to keep it. And that's a lot of reps and game reps with quarterbacks they have not had here at Cornell.
3rd and long. Basilpizio throws underneath. Nolan Albright has the reception. That is the first of his collegiate career. The junior tight end pulls it in, and that will be the final play of the first quarter. A costly turnover again for the Big Red, but Cornell showing some great signs on defense against this undefeated Harvard team. 7-0 after 1. Back at Harvard, Cornell defense hanging in there. Offense with 3 first downs in that first quarter, but they'll have to punt here to start quarter number 2. Gorgeous night here at Harvard Stadium. Eric Free, Jack Ford, and our crew. Temps in the low 50s. And Cornell's got to feel like they've done something that no other team has so far, Jack. Harvard outscored Stetson 28-0 in the first quarter. They outscored Brown 21-7 in the first quarter. They outscored Holy Cross 21-0 in the first quarter. Flag is down on the kick. So this is a Harvard team that's jumped out to big early leads against teams, and if it wasn't for the fumble that was taken back for a 36-yard touchdown by Guillory, be scoreless right now.
Yeah.
Let's check on the flag.
I think it's going to be a running into as opposed to a roughing the kicker. And so, we're looking 4th and 9. You get the 5 yards out of it.
Or do you
see what they have to say? Going back to your other thought while they're trying to figure this out, Coach Orrick told us when we talked to him during the week, they were worried about this Cornell defense. He said it was a smart defense, it was a solid defense, and that's exactly what they've shown in this first quarter.
Yeah, so you can see the indication. It's going to be the 5-yard running into the kicker. They just want to figure out, are we going to re-kick on 4th down and 4? How do we want to play it? So that's what Dan Swanstrom's working through right now.
Running into the kicker. Receiving team, number 36. 5-yard penalty. Repeat 4th down.
So they'll punt it away again.
Yeah, it wasn't a great punt. They saw it just at the last second. It's funny because the official right behind him did not throw, and you can see where the flag comes from the far corner of your screen. That's the official who pulled the flag and threw it.
One thing that has worked in Cornell's favor, according to Dan Swanstrom, is they play so many players on defense. He said they'll rotate, and trust me, we're getting ready for this game like
you especially. You've got to figure out the names and
the
the numbers of all these bodies. He told us like 28 guys he'll run through on defense.
Keeps you fresh.
Offense, maybe another 20.
So after they move it back, the kick is fielded by Cam Henry. Cornell on the coverage, and Henry goes down, so it turns into a positive on the penalty of about 5 yards for Cornell. This has been the story for Harvard. We talked about how Cornell has had trouble taking care of the football. One thing Harvard has excelled at is taking it away from their opponents. 7 interceptions and now 4 fumble recoveries for the Crimson this year.
These have been a combination of some bad decisions. We just saw some bad throws, but some really opportunistic heads-up athletic defense from this Harvard defense.
It was an area that Harvard pointed to coming out of last year because they had 9 total takeaways in 10 games last season. So Orick's team already has 2 more takeaways than they did all of last season.
And again, it goes back to what we talked before. This is a very different team that Harvard brought back this year. Let's after this play, we'll talk a little bit more about it.
Second down and 2. That'll be a first down carry for Jordan Harris. There is a flag down on the play, however. Harris had a 75-yard touchdown run last week against Holy Cross.
Holding Offense, number 52, 10-yard penalty, second down.
Harvard came in with 8 total penalties assessed in the first 3 games this season, accepted penalties.
They've had a reputation, a well-earned reputation for being a very disciplined football team. You don't usually see them shooting themselves in the foot the way Cornell has during the course of these first 3 games of the season. But right now we're talking about this Cornell defense has basically gotten real stout and creating all sorts of problems for Harvard.
Craig on play action on second down. Good coverage downfield, so Craig's going to try to improvise, and he'll head out of bounds. Craig was dealing with injuries last year, so tried to avoid the contact. It's not like they're looking for contact for him this year because he is the meal ticket, but he is such a big guy. You've talked about it quite often. You're surprised about his size and how
I was standing
how
down
tall,
talking to him before today, and I've met him before, but just in football gear, he looks so big. And he's a very talented runner, but we're not seeing it so far this season. They're just trying to preserve him.
6'3", 230 pounds. Third down and 12 coming up. Throws it outside right at the marker. It's going to depend on the spot. Brady Blackburn there on the catch. It's going to be close.
So one of the things that we're seeing Cornell doing is they're rushing just 3 guys, and they're trying to get pressure on him with 3 guys. The last play they did. They forced him out of the pocket. This time they didn't. They're dropping 8 to try to take away those passing lanes, but Harvard has been successful on those 10-yard outs so far.
Craig, a little bit of a scramble defensively for Cornell, and Craig throws it incomplete in the end zone, trying to get Blackburn. There was a lot of discussion on the Cornell sideline because that's where they're spotting the football. Cornell didn't think it was enough for a first down on the previous play, but the officials spotted it, and now things have calmed down a little bit on the sideline here.
So far, you're seeing Cornell trying to go with those 3, rushing 3 down guys. Now they're showing 4 now. See if they'll send him also, or he'll drop back and try to get the pressure by the 3. They do send 4 this time.
So quick on the outside, but once again, Cornell's defense ready for it, and they're on the stop. Ryan Tattersall with the reception, the first year from Wilmington, Delaware, has his 6th reception of the season.
So with Jaden Craig, as good as he was last year, what you're seeing this year is he's much better at going through his progressions, finding the open guy, even if it's not the one who was designed to get open in the play, getting the ball out and getting as much out of each play as you can.
Third down and 5. Harvard 2 for 4 on third down, and they'll have it here. Good hard run across the 30. Bascon brought down at about the 28-yard line, first down for the Crimson.
Bascon, a great high school running back coming out of Swampscott, Massachusetts. And I have to mention this because he broke some of the records of the Swampscott legend, Dick Geron, who was one of my teammates at Yale, one of my great friends, was an outstanding NFL player, outstanding NFL coach, coach of the year for Chicago Bears. Sadly, we lost Dick a few months ago. Just as good as he was an athlete, he was even a better person.
Craig throwing and turning around and almost making the grab was Blackburn. Twisted around quite a bit and almost made a spectacular catch, but that falls incomplete. Craig now 9 of 15 passing. So that would have been something.
Yeah, Craig thought he was going to fade into the corner, and he was still running kind of straight ahead. That would have been a spectacular catch if he could twist his body to get around that. But you wonder, again, these are new receivers. You wonder if this is just something. Jaden Craig didn't get to work with him during the springtime because he was having some medical issues cleared up. So you're wondering if that's something where Craig thought he was going to go one place and the receiver went someplace else.
They go to the ground on second down and 10. Another good carry for Jordan Harris. Joey Cheshire, one of the co-captains for this Cornell team, senior from Lakeland, Florida, came in tied for the team lead in tackles with the stop. Third and 3 coming up. Harvard averaging 53 points a game. The offense yet to score 4 minutes into the second quarter. Defensive touchdown for the Crimson. Another good carry by Harris. Jack talked about it before. So much depth in the backfield between Harris and Gordon, Bascone. We haven't seen Isaiah Bullock, Maddox Reed, another one. A lot of guys who can carry it.
They're talented guys. They're not big in the sense of being tall. They're all about 5'9", about 200 pounds, but they're strong, they're powerful, and they bring great speed to the position. And the ability to just keep running these guys in fresh is such an advantage for this Harvard offense.
Bascone out there now in the pistol on first down. He gets it. Cornell gets him. Max Van Fleet, senior from Bow, New Hampshire, number 95, one of the first ones there for the Big Red.
Tackled by Max Van Fleet and Tommy Decker. No gain in the play. Second down.
Tommy Decker, sophomore, there as well. No gain in the play. Second and 10 for Harvard. Clock running inside of 10 minutes to go in the first half.
The Harvard coach has said to us that this front line, defensive line for Cornell was, their words, disruptive. They're tough to move. We've seen that so far.
Empty backfield. Craig scrambles, throws right side as a man open inside the 5. Denied before getting into the end zone was Blackburn, but first and goal coming up for Harvard after a 13-yard play.
Jaden Craig has just been finding a lot of success on the edges. So you can see here dropping off, and once again, nobody's covering that outside. That's a mistake by the defensive backfield. Somebody has to take away that out. You can see that one of the defenders looking to the others, basically saying, what are we doing here? Because that was an easy pitch and catch for Jaden Craig. You don't need to make it that easy. He's too good.
12th play of the drive for the Crimson. Bascone up the middle. Cornell pushes back.
Stop for no gain.
Once again, we've used the word stout describing that front defensive line of Cornell. I think that's a pretty effective term to use for them. We've seen that. They've been able to get pressure on him just running free. And we saw right then what they've been doing in shutting down some of this Harvard running game. Showing a lot of bodies up front.
Second and goal. Craig will throw, and he's got a man. Touchdown for Harvard. The offense gets the touchdown after the defense scored. Ben Alvarez, the tight end, brings it in to make it 13-0 with a point after to come. Alvarez was lined up in the backfield, snuck out, and found the end zone.
Take a look at it here. You can see that Cornell's sending a lot of bodies, almost gets to him. He realizes there's a blitz coming, that he's going to have one-on-one coverage out there, drops it out to him, perfectly thrown ball.
Ben Alvarez, the sophomore from Yorkville, Illinois, with the touchdown. Harvard has a defensive score, and now the offense has a score. 14-0 Crimson in the second. Well, the smile is going to be pretty wide for number 45, Ben Alvarez, because he has his first career reception as a college player. It happens to be a touchdown reception. He is the 9th different Harvard player to catch a touchdown pass already this season.
That's fascinating. First of all, if you're Ben Alvarez, okay, first reception, first touchdown, national television, not a bad night so far for him. But that statistic is incredible. 9 different receivers have caught passes in this beginning of the game. And that's, again, an indication of how Jaden Craig has improved a game that was already excellent last year. He's finding the open guys, getting the ball to him, keeping the offense moving. And that's to get to 9 different receivers and a little bit more than a quarter is an astonishing number.
Kieran Korb kicking into the breeze, taken at the goal line by the Big Red and stopped at the 17-yard line was Doran Smith. Well, we've seen a few flashes for Cornell, but we've also seen some problems, mistakes that haunted them this season and it hurt them in the first quarter.
You know, you said at the very beginning, Eric, and that is, this team has been pretty solid, except when they weren't, when they've made their own mistakes to hurt themselves. So we saw the fumble for the touchdown. The flea flicker, which looked good downfield, but it didn't give him enough time to throw the ball. So that killed the momentum on that drive. A fumble here on the exchange, trying to pull it out, killed the momentum once again. You are seeing them still come back. And this has been it's difficult to say when they're 0-3, but it has been a resilient Cornell team. They need now to get something done on the offense, especially in this drive.
But including tonight, they are -6 in turnover margin on the season, and they're having trouble getting things going offensively after they picked up some early first downs. Harvard defense turning things up quite a bit here since then. Ethan Carson on the stop for the Crimson on the first down play.
Harvard will show you that basic three-man front. They've got 4 linebackers. You can see them all lined up there. They can all run like defensive backs. They can crash and make tackles. Let's see if they show one and then come with more, which they do.
This is tipped and incomplete. It'll drop down. Pressure coming from Sean Line.
Pass intended for Doran Smith.
I think Andy Auric wanted to make sure everybody knew, we're getting interceptions. We have disrupted defense. We've got guys taking it back to the house, but it starts with the pressure up front. And we've talked about it, that front seven. So many new faces. Alex DeGreek's got a lot of experience, but guys who waited their turn. Yep. And this front seven has played outstanding football this
lights
season.
Out. You know, you go back to that last play. That was the absolute right play to call. The blitz was coming off of the left side. They had blockers out in front. Just couldn't get the ball to the receiver.
Here comes the blitz. Picked up. Almost a great catch. Dorsey Benefield there on the coverage, denying Ricardo Lagares. And it's 3 and out for Cornell.
Now, it would have been a tough catch. Obviously, it would have been a tough catch. But what you saw is that the offensive line, you pick up the blitz. You can see 43 comes off the left edge, and 7 comes in a delayed blitz. They get picked up, delivers the ball. It would have been a spectacular catch, but that's what Cornell needs right now. They need somebody to step up and do something spectacular that will get them out of the rut that they put themselves in.
Will Buck on to punt for the 4th time. Breeze at his back, gets it away. Pretty good kick. Backpedaling is Cam Henry. He'll take the fair catch. And Harvard will bring the offense back onto the field. A couple of touchdowns, second quarter here at the stadium. Not one, but 2 Monday Night Football games coming up Monday. Josh Allen and the 4-1 Bills taking on the Falcons at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on ESPN and ESPN Deportes. Bears Commanders, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ABC. Also available on the all-new ESPN app, so you can watch both games simultaneously starting at 8 p.m. on the East Coast. I have made your Monday plans for you right there.
And you'll be proud of me. I got myself the ESPN app. You know, not the most technologically advanced, but I got it up and running. I'm watching games all over the place.
Now that right there is a perfect promo, Jack. I'm
That's right.
not technologically advanced, but I can figure out the ESPN app. I'm Jack Ford, and I endorse this message.
I think I'm going to call for the marketing department sometime on Monday.
Jaden Craig brings the offense on the field after another stop for the Harvard defense. Bascone in the backfield, 14-0 Harvard, 7 points in the first quarter, 7 here in the second. Riley Jenny, who Harvard goes a little trick play. Cam Henry tries to turn the corner. Jaden Craig out there kind of blocking for Henry. Flag on the play.
Late flag there.
That's one of those Jaden Craig go run interference,
Kind of.
but don't touch anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Personal foul. Illegal block below the waist. Defense, number 9. 15-yard penalty. First down.
Damon Barnes gets whistled for the penalty.
Interesting call, because I've seen people say, well, wait a minute, you're on defense. How can you have an illegal block below the leg? And what happens is, you know, sometimes the defenders want to take out blockers, so they'll go low. They're thinking, okay, I can't get him myself. I'll go low, take the blocker out. We don't see it right there. But it was a really good play by 26 to string that out fight off those blockers and get him to the ground. So what you see sometimes is if defender goes in to try to take out the blockers so somebody else can make the tackle, if you go low, you'll get the same call as if it was an offensive lineman pulling and going low on a block.
Ball spotted at the 33-yard line. DJ Gordon picks up a couple.
Can we go back to DJ Gordon? You and I talked about it before, and Coach O'Rourke was saying this guy's the fastest guy on the team. He's talented. He's a quarterback. We got a quarterback. How do we fit him in? Well, they put him in as a running back. He said to him, "You're going to have to take the green jersey off and get some hits." Put him in as a running back for one of their spring scrimmages. He ran for 250 yards. So they said, "All right, we got to figure out a way to get this guy on the field and get the ball in his hands."
Outside to another speedster, Cam Henry, who's running 10.8-100. He's denied, so the Cornell defense continues to come up with plays, and they'll bring up a third down.
One thing you can say about this defense is they do fly to the ball. You can see right now, 92 read the pass, got out there, and got in on the tackle. All sorts of Cornell bodies showing up, so they will run at you.
Third down to 9. Craig intercepted. The first interception thrown by Jaden Craig this year. Johnny Williamson's the one who has it, and he takes it out to the 41-yard line. Cornell gets a takeaway.
Ruling on the field is an interception. First down, Cornell.
Number 2, Johnny Williamson, just dropping back. Looked like it had zone coverage. And obviously, Jaden Craig is not seeing him in his passing line. So first of all, he's got time, then he gets pressured. He comes off of his man on the corner. So Johnny Williamson, number 2, is covering the guy in the flat. He's watching the eyes of Jaden Craig, sees where he's going to delay. See him? Comes off of his guy and steps in front of the receiver. That's just an experienced play by an experienced defensive back in number 2, Johnny Williamson.
Just the 4th turnover for Harvard so far this season. Lagares has the handoff. Tries to bounce outside. Damian Henderson was there on the stop for Harvard.
You just got the feel that Cornell has to capitalize on this in some way. They've got to move the chains. They've got to generate some offensive momentum. If they can score, that's fabulous. That's great for them. But they at least have to move the ball. They can't turn around and just punt it right back to Harvard now. It would be too deflating after that turnover.
Not happening on the ground. 11 carries for 11 yards. This will be a positive play here. It's a bit of a trick counter play to find that opening as Lagares gets the first down yardage.
Yeah. Well-designed play. Start everybody moving to the right. Get it to Lagares, coming back on the counter to the left. Watch. You can see now he's getting blocking on the left side. Finds a good opening. Well-designed play, well-executed play. Moving the sticks. Cornell has to continue to move the chains here to try and seize some momentum themselves.
10-yard run. Thrown outside, but not much room for Dorrance Smith. Henderson all over him. Of course, we've been saying the name Damian Henderson since his first year here at Harvard. Impact freshman year, had an interception in that thrilling Penn win, interception in the game against Yale. Second team all-conference a year ago, number 7, the junior from Tampa.
He's been a force in this defense, as you said, for a couple of years. He read that immediately, crashed down right away, and shut that play down before they were able to generate anything from it.
Anderson has a couple of interceptions this season, 4 in his career. Here's Lagares trying to move the pile. Sophomore from North Chi-Line, New York, who didn't play a season ago, but had a good day against Colgate last week. 11 carries, 67 yards. So Lagares, the lead back right now for this Cornell team. They move quickly on 3rd down and 5. Pass is complete. First down right at the 35-yard line. And Cornell will move the chains again. Smith with the catch.
Best part of that play, the delivery, the ball was thrown perfectly. But the best part was he got it out of his hand quickly. Starts to roll, sees the man open right away on the flat, gets it out to him quickly before the defender can get to him. So what you're seeing now is Vasilpizio, I think, is starting to get a little rhythm himself, starting to get a feel for delivering the ball and the speed of this defense and what he can do offensively.
7 of 11 passing. Pressure from the backside, got rid of it. Pretty nifty catch by Jontu Reed. Benefield there on the stop as Beto faced some pressure.
This is an example of how big and strong he is, because he's got a free runner coming high and somebody coming low, and he's able to still hang in there in the pocket, take a big hit, but get the ball out there so it wasn't a disastrous play. Had the potential to turn into something positive.
Number 30, Owen Johnson, is the first one to get there for Harvard. 2nd down and 13. See Vasilpizio covering the ear holes in his helmet because they're using the wireless communication from the sideline to the quarterback in this case for Cornell, and they have to let it run down to the 2-minute timeout here at Harvard. 2-touchdown game. Kick off your Week 6 NFL Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern, with the Countdown crew on ESPN and the all-new ESPN app. They'll have all the early breaking stories, injury updates, previews of each game right up to kickoff. When you think of NFL and you're at Harvard, you think of 17-year NFL veteran Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Fitzmagic.
And when you think of Cornell, you think of your good friend Ed Marinaro.
Ed Marinaro, a good friend, played against him for 4 years, the most decorated player in Cornell history, arguably the best in the Ivy League history. National Player of the Year in a couple of different organizations. Also still holds an NCAA record for most average yards gained in a career for about 180 yards a game. Ryan Fitzpatrick was the Player of the Year in the Ivy, 7th round draft choice, 17 years in the NFL, a couple of NFL records, started for 9 different teams to the record, and also threw for more than 400 yards 3 times in a row, which is a record.
Out of the 2-minute timeout, 2nd down and long. They set it up on the outside, trying to get Lee going. Lee is tough to take down, and Harvard gets there for the tackle. Before Ed texts you and wonders why did they use black and white photos for me and color photos for Ryan, timeout called by Harvard. It's just more dramatic back in Ed's day for the black and white. They had color photography yet, but we're just going for it.
I know we did. I've seen some of them.
He's a dramatic guy, too. We know that.
Yes. Marinaro, a great career as an actor, right? You remember his big role, first big role, Joe Coffey, Officer Joe Coffey in Hill Street Blues. Most recently, and this is where he says people will recognize, especially the younger kids, Coach Marty Daniels in Blue Mountain State, right? They're kind of a cult favorite out there. But unfortunately, I suspect he's going to say, how come I don't get a color photo? And Ryan Fitzpatrick does, right? A couple of really interesting, charming, and charismatic guys, those two guys.
3rd down and 13 for Cornell. 2 for 5 tonight for the Big Red. Vasilpizio throws it to his tight end out across to the 29-yard line. Ryder Kurtz bring up a 4th down. Call it about 4 here, maybe 5. Going to be close to it. So they're going to go for it. They're going to go quickly to the line. Now Vasilpizio will wait for the call from the sideline. The clock runs, 90 seconds to go before halftime. Vasilpizio rolling, has to tuck it away, nowhere to go, and Harvard has the stop at the line of scrimmage, and they'll take over on downs.
Look, he got a lot of pressure, and it's easy for us to sit up here and say, well, he had somebody open down into the corner of the end zone.
Harvard takes over on down.
But you can see him, he's getting pressure. You got trips on the left side. You're going to get one guy breaking down right there. Now, what happened was the deep man comes up because he's looking at number 8 going to throw to the flat. And when he comes up, there is nobody covering the guy in the end zone. Now, a lot of pressure on him. As I said, it's easy for us to sit up here and say that's where he should have delivered. I think this is also, Eric, something we talked about before. He hasn't been playing, not meaningful snaps in almost 3 years. You've got to get a feel for that and see the whole field. They'll watch the film on that and realize that was a touchdown they gave away.
Craig completes to Caden Kaufman. Harvard will work quickly here.
He stopped by Johnny Williamson. 8-yard gain, 2nd and 2.
Approaching 1 minute to go before halftime. Craig throws deep, man coverage down the sideline, turning but out of bounds. Incomplete. This could be a penalty here, but the official's going to hold off and keep the flag in the pocket. Braylon Howard came up, and I've seen that flagged before for unsportsmanlike conduct, but they just let it go.
I think Cornell is lucky. Once he looks at him,
yes,
that's where it becomes a flag. You know, you can celebrate, but as soon as you turn and get in the face of the guy and make those gestures, that probably should have been a flag.
Craig on 3rd and short has the first down. Harvard with 2 timeouts remaining. That will stop the clock to move the chains just briefly at 49 seconds. Gil Martin with the catch. Clock running again. 44 to go before halftime. Craig steps into it. Gil Martin again into Cornell territory. Down to the 42-yard line. You've talked about how NFL scouts have been around the Harvard program watching Jaden Craig. I want to get your thought on what a 2-minute drive does for their interest and how it piques their curiosity. We'll talk about that after this quick break. "37 seconds to go before halftime." Jaden Craig, you can see his numbers and how they've gone up as he's taken over the job. But these are things that I think NFL scouts want to see. How do you move your team down the field? You have 1 timeout left, had a lot of field to cover. What have you seen so far, Jack?
Yeah, so far I've seen him mature last year from exceptional year to this year an even better year. That's, again, a big-time throw all the way across the field. And, you know, Eric, what they look at in quarterbacks, a couple of things. How do you do on 3rd down conversions? How do you do in the red zone? How do you do with pressure moving a ball when you're going against the clock? We know red zone, they're converting 40%, or more than that. Actually, they're 4th in the nation, 16 of 18 red zone. 3rd down conversions, 40%. This is an interesting drive that they're putting together that would help them in this game and certainly make NFL scouts pay a little bit more attention to Jalen.
2nd down and 1. Craig with the pump fake now looking towards the end zone, and it is incomplete. For the longest time, it looked like it was going to be an interception from Michael O'Keefe. And then for a split second, maybe a Brady Blackburn touchdown for Harvard.
You know what, again, didn't turn out to be a touchdown, but it was a really good throw. Get a little bit of a shoulder pump. He gets it inside where his guy can make the play. He throws him inside of the defender, right there. High points it. Would have been an exceptional catch, but it could have been made.
3rd down and 1 timeout remaining, 25 seconds to go. Bascone has the carry, has the first down inside the 30 to about the 27-yard line. They'll stop the clock to move the chains with 18 seconds to go, and now Harvard will use their final timeout.
You can see right there how strong Bascone is. We talked about him before. Not tall, but powerful, powerfully built. He has speed. He has an ability to run between the tackles. He just carried bodies with him to convert into the first down on that play. So, you know, he's been around for a long time here. Harvard has worked. Over the years, they'll run kind of a stable of running backs where they'll get 2-3 guys who they know they can count on, who will get carries during the game, and this year is no different.
Look at the scoreboard right now, 14-0. Comfortable lead for Harvard. It's been a lot more comfortable than 14-0 for the Crimson in their first 3 games of the season. This is close by standards against Harvard in 2025.
This would be an enormous momentum swing if Cornell can keep them from putting points on the board in the last 18 seconds here.
Harvard out of timeouts. Craig to throw on 1st down and 10. Scrambles right, throws on the run, and throws out of the end zone with 10 seconds to go. Maybe one more shot at the end zone here, Jack. What do you do with the 10 seconds and no timeouts?
You know, you can get 2 plays in. They've had great success on the out-breaking routes. You know, what you do is say, see if you can get one of those, couple of things. It might position you to then take another shot into the end zone. Might get you close enough to make this a more makeable field goal. Don't be surprised if all of a sudden you see number 1 take off running.
Could be dangerous, though, with no timeouts remaining. Craig's got it. He throws, and it is incomplete. No flag. 4 seconds to go, and the field goal unit will come on for Harvard.
Even if Cornell gives up the 3 points here, they've got to go into their locker room at halftime feeling pretty good about themselves, especially the defense. You know, as you said before, Eric, nobody has done this to this Harvard offense at all during the first 3 games. Nothing even close to this in the first 3 games.
45-yard field goal attempt for Kieran Core, and a timeout's going to be called by Cornell. Core's career long is 34. He has 1 successful field goal this year, just 2 attempts. There's not a lot of work for the punter and the place kicker.
They're not getting
with this Harvard offense.
I don't think they're getting their uniforms real dirty here. You had an interesting question, Coach O'Rourke, saying, you know, what's his distance? Where do you think you're comfortable with him? And his response was, if you ask him, he'll say 65. I'm good. Coach O'Rourke said, maybe right about where he is right now, this 45-yard mark.
He is kicking towards the close end of the stadium, but the breeze is blowing into his face right now. Really moving too much of the uprights, but the American flag at the top of the stadium is howling. 45-yarder for Kieran Core to try to close out the first half with another Harvard score. Kick is on the way, and it is no good. And Cornell celebrating the miss as they head to the locker room at halftime.
You look at that Cornell sideline right now, and those guys are pumped. Cornell fans in the stand are pumped. That ability to keep points off the board. You got a little bit of a hook. Looks like you coming off the tee, as a matter of fact. Little bit of a hook.
I call it a draw.
A draw. Okay,
yes,
we'll call it a draw. That's a much more diplomatic term to use for it. But I tell you what, you get into that Cornell locker room right now, and I am sure Coach Quanstrom is saying, hey, we are in this game. We are in this game. We can take control of it.
Not many teams, in fact, no team has been able to say that at halftime against this Harvard team this year. Harvard's up 14-0, but Cornell still in the fight. We're at the half at Harvard. Getting a little chilly here at Harvard Stadium on a Friday night, but it is beautiful, and it is a tight game, 14-0. Harvard on top of Cornell. Put that in perspective, Jack. First 3 games this season, Harvard had outscored their 3 opponents in the first half, 116-10. They did it with defense in the first quarter to get their first points tonight.
Right, taking advantage, as they have, of Cornell shooting themselves in the foot, as they have. And you can see now, number 1, Jaden Craig leading the offense. Good play calling, good execution. You're seeing him deliver the ball. Harvard, you can understand somebody saying, oh, this is 3-0 Harvard juggernaut. Of course, it's going to be 30-0 at the half. Well, it's not, because of the defense that Cornell has brought with it. They have been strong up front against the run. They have been very good at defending the deep ball. You know, that's one of the strengths that we've seen in the past with Jaden Craig, is throwing the deep ball. But right now, we've seen a couple of those instances where you're just getting powerful play by that front 7 of Cornell. So putting him in a situation where this is indeed a game.
Cornell fans think it's a game. We'll see what happens in the second half. Second half kickoff. Cornell will boot it to Harvard when we come back. Ready for the start of the second half. 25th ranked Harvard on top of Cornell, 14-0. Big Red looking for their first win of the season. Crimson led by Jaden Craig, trying to go to 4-0 and 2-0 in the Ivy League. Cornell to kick it away to Harvard to start the second half. Opportunity here on the return for Cam Henry. Henry goes down. Door closed pretty quickly on Henry, short of the 20-yard line. So Harvard will bring the offense onto the field. 188 yards of offense in that first half of the Crimson compared to 74 for Cornell. One turnover for each team. The first turnover for Jaden Craig, first interception this season.
For the season. You know, there's a lot of football left to be played in this game. But you can say that right now, Cornell needs to get another stop, and Harvard, Jaden Craig needs to start developing some rhythm for the offense.
They start on the ground, and this is a good start. Bascone breaks free for a first down carry. 16 yards for Xavier Bascone.
That's a pretty good way to start developing some rhythm in your offense. Give it a Bascone, churning out some offense, the longest run on the of the game so far, to give you a sense of how tightly this game has actually been played.
8 carries, 37 yards now for the junior. He has it again. He's not another good carry here, about 8 yards on first down.
One of the things about Bascone is we talked about his speed, we know that, but he's so good running between the tackles because he's patient. He has vision, and a lot of this is because he's a veteran. He's been around for, you and I said this before, we've been calling his name for a lot of years now. But on that play, you could see he gave it a chance to develop. He had the patience and then had the burst to take advantage of it.
11 carries, 56 yards, and a touchdown in the win against Holy Cross last week. He's the man right now, and a flag comes in as Bascone goes down. Tommy McPherson with the stop, and likely a hold here on Harvard.
Holding. Offense, number 65. 10-yard penalty. Second down.
You know, it's interesting. We've seen this happen a couple times now to the Harvard offense, where they are hurting themselves with holding penalties. We had a graphic up before. We were talking about how little penalties they've had so far in the first 3 games. You see Coach Andy Orrick now doing a good job coaching, talking to his linemen, saying, look, man, we control, we're good, we'll be fine. Good job by Andy Orrick.
Enzo Agostini, number 65, got the penalty. Didn't get a stern talking to. Looks more of a softer touch from Andy Orrick on the sideline.
A former offensive lineman talking to another offensive lineman saying, hey, let's just get better. I'm not going to get on you about this.
Good throw by Craig. Found the opening. Found Blackburn into Cornell territory with the first down.
Andy Orrick, an excellent offensive lineman for Princeton in his playing days. Spent a lot of time coaching at Princeton before he ended up here as the head coach. Only the 5th head coach, by the way, since 1956 here at Harvard. Talking about having some consistency. That's an impressive number.
See the numbers for Craig. 17th completion, went for 19 yards to number 19. Back to the ground, and Harvard's getting it done on offense out of the locker room at halftime. Big run on offense. Jordan Harris limping towards the sideline after that tackle at the end of the play. McPherson on the stop, 22 yards. We'll keep an eye on Harris.
Talked about coming out. Let's see a little bit that left foot, left leg. Let's see, lands on kind of an awkward landing on that left leg. Going out of bounds. It came up, you can see, comes up moving on, and hopefully he'll be okay. But Harvard coming out and asserting their offense, asserting themselves on the ground. Say, we're going to take over this game. We're going to do it with the running game.
Bascone gets the handoff. Well, it starts up front for this offensive line. We talked about how they hadn't allowed a sack this year and very little pressure on Jaden Craig, but that group looks to be committed to taking control of this game up front right now if this first drive in the 3rd quarter is any indication for Harvard.
And you can see now that this offensive line, and the coaches have said, you know, they had to replace a couple of really good players from last year, but they are very happy at the level that they're playing right now. And they're asserting themselves now on this drive.
Craig with the throw, it's knocked away. Once again, Braylon Howard making the play defensively to break up the pass intended for Dean Boyd.
That was a good route, it was a good throw, just better defense. You can see he closes on the ball. Ball is a little bit high, maybe a little bit behind. Gives the defender a chance to make a play on it. But we talked about before in the last drive, This would be an enormous stop for Cornell if they could hold them here. But don't be surprised, Eric. I think that if they do, don't be surprised to see Harvard going for it on fourth.
They're down at 5. Back to Bascone. Another big hole. That offensive line taking control here in the third quarter. And a first down carry, 11 yards for Exavea.
Yes, they don't have to make a decision on fourth down now. Can you see right there, clearing out a path. Bascone, once again, the vision we talked about before. Finding the opening and then having the burst to get through.
Hayden Killstrom, who was a starter at right guard last year, is the starting center for this offensive line. Movement up front, and that's going to go against Harvard to push them back 5.
Offense number 65, 5-yard penalty, first down.
I don't know if Coach Orick is going to keep the nice, calm conversation if you keep piling up the penalties.
You got to talk to him once, that's fine. You got to talk to him twice, it might be a different conversation.
Agostini gets his second penalty of this drive.
Team that you mentioned before has led the nation in fewest amount of penalties. All of a sudden, we've seen a series of uncharacteristic calls against this Harvard offense.
You don't miss Agostini, by the way. 6'6", 300 extra linemen out there right now for this Harvard team. Bascone turns the corner inside the 5. First and goal, Harvard.
Bascone was at least 8 yards into that second level before anybody put a hand on him. So it was just a great designed play. Excellent blocking, especially by the left side of that Harvard offensive line. But right now, they are just chewing up chunks on the ground.
Second and goal coming for Harvard at the 5. First drive of the third quarter. This is the 9th play of the drive. Started inside their 20-yard line. Craig to throw. Incomplete. Intended for Bascone. McPherson on the coverage. Third and goal.
We've seen some really good coverage by the back end of this Cornell defense. We saw the interception earlier in the first half, a couple of good plays on this drive. See, right now the plan is to get it right out to Bascone, but it was read immediately. Good coverage by Cornell. Tommy McPherson getting in on that in the passing lane to make it a difficult completion to make for Jaden.
Harvard's been good on third down tonight, 7 of 10. Converting on third down as a third and goal coming up. Cornell having a little trouble with the personnel. Looks like they've gotten straightened out. Give up the middle, and that Cornell defense comes up when they need it most. Stop at the 4-yard line, and a fourth down and goal from the 4 coming for Harvard. They'll bring the field goal team up.
Yeah, an interesting call here. Third and goal. Up the middle, it's worked before, but that stout front line of Cornell shutting it down. And Harvard saying, let's take the points. 14-0 is not great. Let's try to make that 17.
Core missed from 45 to close out the first half. Now from 22, he puts it through. And Harvard scores on their first drive of the third quarter. It's a field goal for the sophomore here in Core. And Harvard's on top 17-0 here at Tim Murphy Field. 17-0 Harvard on top as Vito Bassapuzio gets set to take the offense onto the field for the first possession of the second half. 11 plays, 76-yard drive, ended with the Core field goal to put Harvard on top 17-0. Initial bobble on the return, now turning the corner is Doran Smith. Smith's going to be knocked out of bounds by the kicker. So a great return for Cornell. They get a little something from their special teams before the offense takes the field.
You know, it's interesting how often you see that. A bobble on a kick return just kind of throws off everything. The guys coming down in their lanes and they might change their eye discipline changes. Doran Smith, we said, is just an outstanding football player. He's been good here at Cornell for a lot of years, giving them something right now, a little impetus. And this is a drive now, again, with plenty of time left. But if you're Cornell, I think you've got to come up with something here. You need to put some points on the board before this gets out of control.
This drive starts at the 36-yard line. The quarterback will keep it and take it out to the 42-yard line. So Basilpizio in the first half carried it 7 times for 14 yards and a 19-yard run. You see his passing numbers, 10 of 14 for 48.
See him finishing that run. You know, if you're a safety coming up and you're coming up on a 6'5", 220-yard guy who is saying, look, I'm going to finish this run on you, that was a good stop.
Garis finds an opening and has a first down in midfield for Cornell.
That's exactly what Cornell needs to do. They had a burst on that kickoff return. In 2 runs now, get them a first down, move the chains. They've got to continue to move the chains, and this is might not be this drive, but they certainly need, obviously down 17-0, get some points.
Cornell in their last game at Showcall Field against Colgate, they were down 28-6 at halftime, had a good third quarter in that game, made it a 28-21 game before falling 41-21 on homecoming. Hoping to have a good start to the third quarter here and try to keep the momentum going and take care of the football. They had that fumble that was returned for a touchdown early, but that's the only turnover for a turnover-prone Cornell team here tonight.
And again, as you mentioned last week, they showed up their second half. They made it competitive. They got into the game, and this is what they have to believe they have the ability to do the second half here in this game against Harvard. So far, coming out, they're moving the ball.
Cornell looking for their first win over Harvard since 2018. Game they were down at by 10 in the fourth quarter before coming back in that one. Going to be a gain of maybe 1. Agostino on the stop of Basilpizio, and a third down play coming up for the Big Red.
Third down and 6 yards to go for Cornell first.
Turning it upfield and sliding. He started the slide just shy of the first down marker, so that's where it's going to be spotted. It's going to be 4th down and 1. Benefield on the stop.
See, the Cornell sideline is upset. They're thinking that he started that slide. It was clear he was going down, and yet there was still a hit at the end of that. Not surprising to see them go for it here. Right now, goes down. There's nothing open downfield. You know, those are those close bang-bang calls.
4th down and 2. Smith in motion. Pressure coming, getting rid of it just in time. And Reed has it. First down and much more down to the 15-yard line. Bino Basilpizio took the hit, made the completion, 27 yards.
So far, the play of the game for Cornell. We talked about how big and strong he is, what a good athlete he is. He has a free runner right on top of him, but still manages with Sean Line in his face, and a great catch. Picking up, Jontu Reed picking up that behind him with one hand. A huge play for Cornell here to build some momentum.
The 27-yarder is indeed their longest play from scrimmage tonight. 1st and 10 at the 15. Bino to his tight end. Kurtz upended at the 9-yard line by Sean Line. Kurtz, the leading receiver for this Cornell team this season. 13 catches for just under 200 yards coming into play tonight.
Last year, an honorable mention, All-Ivy. He's been productive for them as long as he's been there up in Ithaca. He's a guy that he's a big guy. He's got good hands. Somebody that the quarterbacks have always been able to rely upon.
36 receptions last year. He's up to 16 this season. 2nd down. Looking to get to the pylon was Reed. That's enough for a first down. 1st and goal coming up for Cornell, looking to get on the scoreboard here in the 3rd quarter.
Looks like a different Cornell team. You know, they had the stop coming into right before the second half. They come out here, they give up a field goal, but right now on all cylinders get the ball out.
Up to the line quickly, Basilpizio behind his guard and center. No indication yet. Cornell throwing arms in the air. And now an official throws his arms in the air. It's a touchdown for Cornell. We have a shirtless Cornell fan in the stands. That's where we are right now, the big friend on the board.
Right now, again, looking to find a slot. Right? He's smart enough to slide slightly to the left. You see this, just not following his center, but looks for the slot, slides to the left, gets in there. It took a long time to call that. I'm not sure why, because he was clearly in early on.
So this is interesting for Cornell. You found out pregame that Jonathan Roost is handling the place kicking. That is his first attempt at a point after or a field goal, and he delivers to make it a 17-7 game. Cornell, on their first possession of the third quarter, tightens it up here at Harvard. Alan Zhao is the primary kicker for Cornell. He's out with an injury, so Jonathan Roost from Australia came on for that moment. And who's his biggest fan? Dan Swanstrom.
How happy is Dan Swanstrom? He told us before, Jonathan Roost was a walk-on Australian rules football player who first kicked a U.S. football in September. And he said he's going to have to be our guy for us. But isn't that a great sight to see a coach so excited to see success on his player? And that was, you know, going back to that drive. We said before they started that drive, Cornell needed to generate something here, some momentum. They've been trying to find themselves as an offense. I don't know if that drive helped them actually find themselves, but boy, it put them on the path to finding themselves.
Kick through the hands of Henry. Henry's going to bring it out.
I'm not sure what at all Henry was thinking. You know, this is Harvard. These are smart guys.
So Henry brings it out, and Harvard will be deep in their own territory. But they have proven that it could move the football here in the third quarter, Jack.
They came out and said, we're going to do this on the ground. And basically, we're going to take control of that offensive line, and they did that. Putting the ball in the hands of these talented running backs and eventually getting to put 3 points up on the board, imposing their will on Cornell. But Cornell came right back and generated their own impressive drive. The problem, we'll talk about the kickoff in just a sec.
Another good running play. Bascone, good carry on first down. Takes it out 7 yards. Well, you talked about inexperienced players. Cam Henry didn't play football in the last 2 years.
So he has not been on the field. And you know what? You drop the ball, you bobble the ball, it's a kickoff. You're thinking, oh no, what do I got to do? Now, if he was out in the field of the play, bobbled it into the end zone, you know, you might see him saying, I got to get this ball out of here. But even if you bobble it and you're in the end zone, you're fine. Just pick it up, take a knee, you're good.
2nd and 3. Bascone again, but this time he has stood up. Damon Barnes, the first one there for Cornell. And they'll bring up a 3rd down play for the Crimson offense.
Damon Barnes has been a force in the back end of that Cornell defense, and you saw him fill seriously to make that tackle there. So if Cornell defense, if they can hold Harvard and get them off the field here, you know, they might feel that they've completely flipped the script in this game in terms of the momentum.
3rd and 3. That's Henry in motion. Cornell brings the blitz on Craig, and he had to get rid of it quickly before Blackburn made his move. And they'll bring on the punt team for Harvard. 3 and out as the Cornell defense stands tall again.
Good pressure by the Cornell defense. They send a whole lot of bodies. They haven't been sending too many blitzes against Jaden Craig. Sent a bunch there. He got it out a little bit too soon. Good coverage on the back end. But I tell you what, if I'm a Cornell coach, I got to sit number 7 down and say, man, you came close another time to generating a flag for taunting here, because that would have been a backbreaker for Cornell.
Lee thought about picking it up. Fingers a low end-over-end kick. Turns out to work out pretty well. And now some pushing and shoving around the football. And Cornell and Harvard getting separated. Was there any contact with the football by the return team? I don't think so.
I think it looked like that the Cornell guy was almost being pulled into the scrum there where the ball was located.
The ruling on the field is the receiving team player was forced into the touching of the ball. It'll be first down for Cornell.
Excellent call, Jack. You're on top of it.
That's what it looked like. But I can see Dan Swanstrom's point here. He's saying, all right, if that happened, why do we have him getting pulled down from behind? So I can see why he's upset about that.
So it will be Cornell football at their own 40-yard line when we come back. Here is that play as Lee got away and then trying to kind of push somebody into the football and drag him around. Can't we just get along? First half, Cornell had trouble getting things going offensively. 28 plays, 74 yards, but their first drive of the second half, first of all, it was sparked by a good kickoff return that gave them good field position, but after that, they went 64 yards. So 74 yards in the first half, 64 already in the second half.
And you got contributions from a lot of players there. And you saw, this may well be, it depends on how this game goes. Dan Swanstrom is just so excited that his third team kicker, who is an Australian rules football player, comes on and delivers for that extra point.
Basso-Pizio making his first collegiate start, and he has made the most of it. You saw his numbers so far today. 14 of 18 passing for a modest 92 yards, but he has their touchdown on that 1-yard plunge on the previous drive.
Don't you get a sense that you can see him kind of growing into this role, especially in this second half? We talked about how he split snaps previously. But now they've said to him, all right, the game is yours. You're going to run us through and see what happens. You just feel like he's growing into the role.
And he's been a willing runner here in the second half, using that 6'5", 231-pound frame to pick up big yardage into Harvard territory. Another first down.
Powerful run, but you know what? A good quick cut in the very beginning of that to get himself out and into the center of the field where he could deliver that run. So you're seeing he's a big guy, he's a powerful guy, but he's got some quick feet.
Closing in on 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. Thrown to the outside to Kurtz, the tight end. Jack talked about it before. Jamison Wong, who made his debut in 2021 against Harvard, but was the starter from that point forward. First team All-Ivy last year, led the league in passing yards, total offense, 51 career passing touchdowns. This is an incomplete pass to Kurtz. And then Wong added 27 rushing touchdowns. He was the man.
He was.
And there was no opportunity for anyone behind him to get on the field, because why would you when you had Jamison Wong?
And they were always fighting. They didn't have a great one-loss record, so he wasn't coming off the field. So you had two now junior quarterbacks who got no meaningful snaps for 2 years because they were playing behind one of the greatest of all time, Cornell.
Third down and 4. Thrown outside, and grabbing it and holding on to it is Doran Smith. Good catch by the senior to hold on to it. Now move the chains. Another first down for Cornell. That's their 10th.
They've been really good at delivering on those quick out routes. You're seeing the strength of his arm getting it out there, because there's a defender closing on all of these, but the delivery has just been quick enough that they've been able to convert on these and keep the ball moving.
That one incomplete, intended for Broussard. Remember, Broussard was his go-to target in the first quarter.
And I'm sure he wished he had that one back. They'll look at that on film, and he said, the fake is going to hold the linebackers. Look, see, the linebackers step in. So now he has that passing lane. And wide open coming across, but he just puts a little too much on it, and a little bit wide low here. Don't be surprised to see them come back to that, but they're going to miss that one when they talk about it in the screen room.
Another run for Basso-Pizio. Bring up a third down play after picking up 5.
You can just actually see this Cornell offense picking up confidence. They're developing a rhythm, They're starting to feel like they could deliver here. They did it on the last drive.
Blitz coming. Basilpizio throws. His receiver went down. He was brought down. Flag down on the play. This will go against Harvard.
Flag down.
Defense, number 21, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
It's the Harvard captain, Ty Bartram, who gets whistled for pass interference.
Ty Bartram has been such a force in this Harvard team for years now. Coming into the season, preseason All-American, preseason Buck Buchanan watch list, which is for the best defensive player in FCS. He's a captain. He's a leader. The coach has told us physically he's always been a leader, and now he has that presence. When he walks into a room, people tend to gravitate to him, pay attention to him. Tough call on 21, but it keeps the drive alive for Cornell.
First down on the play action. Basilpizio throws, and flags come flying in again.
Flag down.
Looked like he threw that ball just a little bit behind the receiver.
Still some communication between the officials here.
Yeah, Ryder Kurtz in the end zone. The ball was a little bit behind him, and we're still not sure. Let's listen.
Illegal touching. Offense, number 86, was covered up with a snap. 5-yard penalty. Loss of down. Second down.
That hurts. You're driving, you're moving the ball. The idea about, you're the tight end. If you're the wide guy, you've got to make sure that he is not on the line of scrimmage if you're on the line of scrimmage. So now he's covered up. Take a look. You can see he's on the line of scrimmage. You see him on the right line of scrimmage. What we don't see is what's going on the far right. So if you had a wide receiver out there.
The touching of the pass is under further review.
All right, so they're going to take a look at this.
Yeah, so now the question is, and the pass, as you mentioned, was off target, but did Kurtz make any contact with the pass thrown by Basilpizio? That's what they're going to be looking at.
You have an interesting thing because it could be illegal touching. It could also be a man downfield, an illegal man downfield. It's hard to see from that angle whether the wide receiver was on the line of scrimmage. Again, if he is, then 86 Kurtz is an ineligible receiver. If you'll hear him talking about, he was covered up. Now, if the wide receiver is off the line of scrimmage, then Kurtz is an eligible receiver, and you wouldn't have this penalty.
So that's Kurtz touching it.
Yeah.
That wasn't Donahoe touching it. It was Kurtz touching it.
So you have it. You know what? It looks like the receiver is off the line. The line of scrimmage looks like it's on the 12, and it looks like the receiver his left foot is between the 12 and the 13, right? You seeing that same way I am?
Yes.
And if that's in fact the case, then they would have to pick this flag up because he was not covered up. Let's see if the officials in the booth are looking at it the same way you and I are.
28 seconds to go in the third quarter. It was 14-0 Harvard at halftime. Harvard opened the scoring in the second half of the 22-yard Kieran Core field goal, but Cornell has built the confidence as this game has gone on the first possession of the game, first series. They fumbled it. It was scooped up and returned for a touchdown by Austin J. Guillory. And it looked like more of the same for Cornell. Hardly. That's the only turnover for a Cornell team that has turned the ball over 11 times already this season. They've taken care of the football. They have found a way to move the football against Andy Orrick's team. And they have outscored Harvard so far here in the second half. Now finally getting the call on this penalty.
After further review, the ruling on the field is upheld. It is second down.
Again, this year you get one call, upheld. Remember in the past, you had a whole bunch of different options here. My guess, this would have been the old option saying, we're not sure. Not exactly sure. The flag was thrown. That's what it's called. We don't have enough obvious evidence, clear and obvious evidence, for us to reverse that call. I'm not so sure, though. It looked an awful lot to us like he was off of that line of scrimmage.
Second down and 15 now in the final minute of the third quarter. Sulpicio throws. It's almost intercepted. Donahoe reached back for it, couldn't hold on to it. Third and long coming up.
Tried to go back to that play we talked about previously where he missed them on the throw. A little bit of a hold there, yes, too, that I think that Harvard got away with.
Yes, no question about it.
And it did impede his progress to the ball. So that, looking at it from up here, looks like that might have been and perhaps should have been a pass interference call.
Should be a first down for Cornell, Jack, no question. Yeah. Instead, it's third down and 15. Thrown and complete to Smith. Smith weaving through inside the 10. He is going to be about 5 yards short of the first down marker, and a decision coming up for Dan Swanstrom here to start the fourth quarter. Do you get the points with the field goal with your untested kicker who just attempted his first ever point after, or do you leave the offense on the field? And I think that's probably going to be the case, but you know what? I'm not doing a good job building the drama. Come back and find out if they go for it on fourth down next.
You've got me on the edge of my seat now.
A reminder, Saturday, SEC on ABC, a college football triple header. Number 8, Alabama, undefeated in 14th ranked Mizzou at noon Eastern time. And then it is at the Cotton Bowl, Oklahoma and unranked Texas. And then at 7:30 Eastern time, number 10 Georgia squares off against Auburn at Jordan-Hare. Each game also available on the all-new ESPN app. SEC All Day is presented by IHG Hotels and Resorts. Texas 3-2, unranked, a must-win if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive.
There is plenty of drama. There's always drama in that game. There's plenty of drama this time. A little surprising, but I guess Coach Swanson was saying, I don't want to come away with no points here, although you had a great point, which is you're not going to beat Harvard just kicking field goals.
So this will be the first play of the fourth quarter. Jonathan Roost on to attempt a field goal for the first time in his collegiate career. Ball will be spotted at the 15-yard line. It'll be a 25-yard attempt. One for one on point afters. And now attempting a field goal for the first time. It is good. Never a doubt, mates. And the celebration is on for the kicker again.
This has the makings of a Disney celebration story. Look at him coming off the field. He is happy. You can tell his style is a little bit different because he has not been a U.S. football kicker. He was an Australian rules football player. It's different. Look at the team gather around him and the team get pumped up because of his success. I don't think I've ever seen Dan Swanstrom as excited as he's been after these two kicks. Good for Jonathan Roost.
Just good to remember, kickers are people too, and they should be celebrated.
Yeah, this is why we love college football for so many reasons, but one of the reasons is there are always great stories here that emerge, and this is certainly one of them.
His heart rate is right now. And for those watching back home in Perth, well done by the freshman to make it a one-score game. 17-10. Short kick here. Fair catch called for by Harvard, so not going to mess around with the return here as Riley Jenny signals for the fair catch, and Harvard will bring the offense on the field. Our next WWE event 7th annual Crown Jewel for the first time. Speaking of Perth, Australia, this is fantastic. We've got a kicker from Perth, and you've got WWE coming up from Perth tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 a.m. Pacific. John Cena continues his retirement tour, plus the men's and women's Crown Jewel Championships once again on the line. Unlock your access, stream it exclusively on the ESPN app, or go to stream.espn.com/WWE. Looking big and connecting. Brady Blackburn from Jaden Craig, the biggest play of the game. Braylon Howard, who has been breaking up passes left and right all night for Cornell, can't deny Blackburn 48 yards.
This is a big-time throw. He has the time to step into it and just drops it into 19's hands in stride. That's the Jaden Craig we've been talking about. And you know, up until then, the Cornell defensive back have been doing a great job stopping the long passes. Second one now.
Miscommunication on that one, Jack. As Blackburn just went to the post and that drops incomplete. Second down coming up.
Second down.
But the play before that is a good illustration of what Jaden Craig can do and what we've seen him do for the last couple of years here at Harvard.
Craig's season-long 69 yards. That went for 48. Second and 10. Looking to throw again. Good catch by Ryan Tattersall. Tattersall, first year from Wilmington, Delaware. We already have one of our storylines when we're covering the game at Yale Bowl. The Tattersall brothers will be going head-to-head because his brother, Robbie, is a junior tight end at Yale.
One's wearing blue and white, the other is crimson and cream. He's a 6'5" wide receiver first year, so he's a big target. Quick release we saw there from Jaden Craig.
Bascone is hit hard. Looked like he had enough to get the first down by about a yard. So it'll be a first down. Bascone some hard yards to move the chains. Clock running, approaching 13 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Tackle on the play by Michael O'Keefe.
We've seen this from the Cornell defense. I know Bascone picked up the first down. It's the fourth quarter. It's a one-score game. I can't say enough about the fight we've seen from Cornell tonight because I don't think anybody expected this game to be close in the fourth quarter, Jack.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. What they've done against this offensive juggernaut has been nothing short of sensational so far.
Joey Cheshire there on the stop.
15 to the 13-yard line.
That 48-yard pass from Jaden Craig, depending upon what happens in this last quarter, may well end up being the play of the game for Harvard.
The question is, can Cornell get a takeaway? They have one tonight on the interception by Williamson, the first pick that Jaden Craig has thrown this season. Second and 6. Craig. That's a short hop and an incomplete pass.
Good pressure coming off of the left side of the offense.
Jeremiah Lewis, the senior, there with the pressure.
See him come free. It was a free runner. It was actually a good job by Jaden Craig just to get rid of that ball.
Player down for Harvard, the right guard, Brandon Sullivan, the sophomore from Woburn, Mass, just now being helped up.
Andy Orrick, the old offensive lineman from Princeton, helping his offensive lineman up. There's always a brotherhood among those big guys on the offensive line.
Brandon, one of those newer players on the front line, just one game played last year. So he'll head to the sidelines for the moment.
This big play in a lot of ways. One might be if they don't get the first, what will Harvard do? Will they go for it on the fourth or just try to pick up 3 more points on the board?
Rana now in at the right guard spot for Harvard. Third down. Craig throws to the outside, complete. Ball's on the ground, picked up by Cornell, and they say incomplete pass.
Almost that turnover.
Rolling on the field is an incomplete pass. Fourth down.
Dan Swanstrom beside himself. You know, Eric, you said they need to grab a turnover here. That was almost that turnover.
I think that's a fumble. That 100% is a fumble
That's a
because
fumble.
he made the catch and he made a football move, Jack.
He tucked that ball right there. Ball tucked, helmet right on the ball. I don't know if somebody's taking, well, we know somebody's going to be looking at it in the booth, but you can see why Dan Swanstrom is so upset. That was pretty clearly a fumble.
Tommy McPherson with the contact, core on to try the field goal, and once again, it's a two-score game. Well, you pointed out the holding call that was missed earlier, and that certainly looked like it should have been a turnover, but instead, Harvard puts more points on the board. It's 20-10. Instead of potentially a tie game, it's a two-possession game. Take us through it, Jack.
What happens here is this, and this is what Cornell is saying. Cornell is saying that was a catch. And in order to determine it was a catch, the officials have to look and say, did you possess the ball, and then did you make what's called a football move? A football move can be planting your foot to cut away from somebody. There, the football move, according to Coach Swanstrom, is tucking the ball in. That's a football move. So I can understand, look, officials have tough jobs. But looking at that play a couple of times, I can understand Coach Swanstrom saying, how can that not have been a fumble when he possessed the ball, tucked it in, and turned to try to run?
And again, it happens quickly. Why not just let it play out, and then you can go back and review and say it's an incomplete pass, right?
That's the other question. Usually what they'll see in a bang-bang play like that, they let it play out, they'll make the call, because, all right, if they say incomplete pass, fine, nothing lost. If they say, no, you know what, that was a fumble, which I think you and I agree it was, then Cornell would have had the opportunity to make a play out of it. So, I mean, that was an enormous
and you
call.
saw on that higher angle, now, the whistle blew, Jaden Craig had stopped.
Right.
Jaden Craig may have tracked down Keith Williams, but it looked like it was going to be returned
like he was going
for a
to the
touchdown,
house.
and it was going to be 17-16 with the point after to come.
What a difference that call made, or the absence of the call.
DeGreek has his second sack of the night.
Alex DeGreek registers the sack for Harvard.
And you saw the sidelines, you saw the reaction. The Swanstrom, the coaching staff, the players review, take a look at it, and they don't even get that. So there's that just demoralizing feeling on the sideline as well, that what has happened here, that holding call that was missed earlier.
Yeah, a couple of bad calls, and that followed up by a sack, and you're wondering if this is going to take all the air out of the Cornell sails.
Hard hit. Benefield drops the shoulder, which acts as his hammer on Basilpizio.
Benefield has really emerged as a force on this defense. Again, didn't play much as a freshman. Comes out here as a sophomore. Again, I think he backed away just in time, because when you go walking to the guy you just put on the ground, if you're saying something to him, or even just a walking, getting in his face, that could be a flag. But I think Benefield was smart, just backed away a little bit. But he's become the leader on this offense. He's the guy who wears the green dot for the linebackers, getting the signals in from the sideline as a sophomore.
8 tackles tonight for Benefield. Basilpizio scrambling some more, throwing it up for grabs, and it is incomplete. He's on a knee and slow to get up.
And pass intended for Ryder Kurtz.
When you look at him, he's been pretty heroic tonight. This is his, they said, this is your game. You're going to take this from start to finish. He's able to keep the play alive, which was pretty impressive. And then just takes the hit, tries to get it downfield where maybe he can either draw a pass interference call, or maybe one of his guys can grab the ball. You can see him getting up, a little blood on that left leg. He's been taking some hits. He's been delivering some hits tonight, too. Pretty impressive.
Christian Nuoso there on the pressure. The punt by Buck will roll inside the 40 down to the 39-yard line. 10-17 to go in the fourth quarter. Plenty of time left in this one, but Harvard with the 10-point lead and possession when we come back to Harvard Stadium. A reminder, big triple header tomorrow on ABC, SEC on ABC, college football. 8th-ranked Alabama, 14th-ranked Mizzou gets it started at noon Eastern time. And then it is the 121st, say it, Jack Ford, with me, Red River Rivalry. Boom! That's at the Cotton Bowl between Oklahoma and Texas, and then at 7:30 Eastern, it's 10th-ranked Georgia and Auburn. See it all tomorrow on ABC. Also on the all-new ESPN app, SEC All Day, presented by IHG Hotels and Resorts.
I gotta tell you the great story about Alabama. Ty Simpson. He's a guy who stays. He's there for years, backing up some really good, talented quarterback. He finally gets his chance, and he's now a Heisman contender. One of the great college football stories, the great stories of football development and staying home. Eventually, he'll get them.
Jordan Harris picks up a couple of hard yards. This will take us under 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
And that doesn't mean that there are not good times for somebody to leave, go someplace else. It's not going to work for them. And that's great, too, and you've seen some great stories about that. But I think Ty Simpson is kind of reinforcing the notion of you don't always have to leave. Maybe if you stay a little bit, it'll still work out for you.
So it's undefeated Mizzou at 5-0, Bama at 4-1. Great way to start the day, noon Eastern time tomorrow. Another run for Harris. 3rd and 1 coming up for the Crimson.
Talking about those games tomorrow. One of the great things about us doing these games on Friday night, and there are a lot of great things about us doing these games on Friday night, is we get to hang out on Saturdays and just watch games.
Harvard 8 of 14 tonight on 3rd down. Bascone leading the way on the ground, 17 carries, 83 yards. See if he gets the call here on 3rd and short. He does. Big collision just beyond the first down marker. They'll move the chains.
Big hit by the Cornell defense. Once again, showing the power that he brings to that position. Bascone is able to generate that first down, keep that drive alive.
8.5 to go in the 4th. Harvard looking for a drive to chew up tons of clock. Play clock now down to 8. Craig's got it. Looking deep. Forget about chewing up clock. How about we chew up yards on one play? Dean Boyd with the reception.
You would have expected, and I think Cornell expected, they're just going to run clock here. Jaden Craig takes advantage of it. He sees the coverage he's got. He's got the one-on-one coverage on the outside. He puts the ball on the outside. Again, that back shoulder of Dean Boyd, where only he can make the play. Perfectly thrown ball, a great catch.
32 yards to Boyd. That's his 3rd catch of the night. 48 yards for Boyd. Back to the ground to Bascone. Cornell stretches it out and pushes him back at the 16-yard line.
Another good effort by that front 7 of the Cornell defense. As you said, stretching it out, runs out of one tackle, but then everybody else shows up to help out, holding him to a 2-yard gain. You have to be impressed by this Cornell defense and how they've delivered during the course of this game.
Oh, you think about it too, Harvard has run 16 more plays from scrimmage than Cornell has today. This will be their 67th play from scrimmage. And Cornell, we talked about it before, they'll rotate a lot of defensive players in and out. They've needed that here tonight to try to stay fresh. As Bascone has it again. Couldn't quite turn the corner. Michael O'Keefe over there to shut the door. 3rd down coming up for the Crimson. 3-0 on the season, 1-0 in the Ivy after going 8-2 overall and 5-2 in the Ivy last year. Shared the Ivy League title with Columbia and Dartmouth. And Andy Ulrich, with the FCS playoffs looming on the horizon, his message to his team has been 7-0. That's how you have to think. You have to make sure you lock up that regular season championship in the automatic bid. Closing in on going 2-0 League. Down to the 5 goes Dean Boyd.
He said to his team, our backs are to the wall for every single game. In the past, you and I has always talked about the fact there was no playoff for the Ivy champs. There was no playoff at the end of the Ivy season. So you could see the last 2 years, 3 teams shared that title. That was the 6th time in Ivy history. Interestingly, it would have been Harvard last year to go to the tournament if they were allowed to, because they beat both Dartmouth and Columbia, and that'll obviously be the first tiebreaker.
First and goal, Bascone. Stopped at the 4. Inside of 6 minutes to play. 24 teams will head to the FCF's playoffs starting November 29th. And for the first time, an Ivy League team will go to the FCS playoffs. Would it be more than one? There's 12 automatic bids and 12 at-large selections.
It's entirely possible. It's getting a little greedy, obviously, if you're an Ivy fan, but certainly entirely possible with some of the successful teams we've seen in the last few years that you could get more than one.
Second and goal out of the pistol. Craig's got it, has blocking in front, and he has a touchdown for Harvard.
That's that extra dimension that number 1 brings to this game. He has been, in the last few years, his running has been an important part of that offense. He hasn't done it much this year. He hasn't had to. But right there, you can see having that ability, sucking everybody into the middle because of how they've been running the ball before, and then he has the running ability to break it outside and to put Harvard ahead 27-10. Showing us more of the talent of Jaden Craig.
Craig's second touchdown tonight, had a passing touchdown in the first half, has this running touchdown in the second half, bringing Harvard a step closer to a 4-0 start and a 2-0 start in the Ivy League. We're thinking outside the box for our AT&T best moment because it involves a kicker, but not just any kicker.
How often do we have a kicker at the best moment? Well, we have it tonight because Jonathan Roos, a walk-on Australian rules football player, gets the chance to kick because the 2 guys ahead of him are hurt, and he delivers. And look at the joy on the part of Coach Dan Swanson, and the joy on the part of his teammates also that he would show up like that.
It could be a much happier night for Cornell if one very important call went their way, and that's going to be a big talking point here. Right now the score, all Harvard, 27-10, as the Crimson have scored 10 unanswered points to stretch things out here in the 4th quarter, but it could look so much different if a call had gone Cornell's way, and it could possibly be a 17-all game in the 4th quarter. This one's going to head out of the end zone, and Cornell will take over at the 25-yard line. This is that play in the 4th.
Now you can see in real time it's a bang-bang play, all right? But in looking at it, right there, catch, turn, bang, bang. The standard, once again, is did the receiver make a football move before the ball came out as a fumble? Coach Swanstrom and the whole Cornell sideline is saying, yes, of course he did. It looked to us like he tucked the ball, turned, and that's when he got hit and the ball popped out. Officials didn't see it that way, but what an enormous swing that play was.
Could have been a scoop and score for a touchdown. At the time, it was 17-10. Would have made it 17-16 with the point after to come. Instead, field goal by Harvard, and then they add the touchdown on the run by Jaden Craig. Last gasp for Cornell. It's through the hands of the receiver and intercepted. Jack Donahoe has it, and Jack Donahoe will take it in for a touchdown for the Crimson. Cornell had a turnover that went for a touchdown in the first quarter. They had done such a great job of taking care of the football, but in the end, Harvard gets another takeaway and a touchdown, and they're pulling away in the 4th.
Ball a little hot, but through the hands of the receiver. Again, could have been caught. Jack Donahoe playing it perfectly, getting back into the end zone. it'll go a little high and a little behind the receiver too. So that's not all on the receiver. But what's interesting is, look, the score is what the score is. The score is 37-10. But boy, this does not feel like a 34-10 game to me.
So with 4:58 to go in the fourth quarter, it's a touchdown for the junior from White Plains. That is the third defensive score for Harvard this season, and their second tonight. Remember, Austin Guillory had the 36-yard fumble return for a touchdown. That is a 39-yard interception return for a Harvard touchdown.
And you know what? This Harvard offense, for good reason, has been getting all the publicity, all the press. But sort of lost in the glow of the Harvard offense has been this performance so far this year by this Harvard defense. The coaches they lost their top 5 defensive linemen, their top 5 linebackers, and yet the coaches have said they think this defense now could be better than the one they had last year. And we've seen certainly evidence of that tonight here against this Cornell team. So a powerful, imposing defense showing up multiple times here tonight.
You saw the scores tonight. 2 other games tonight involving Ivy League teams. Brown with a second half comeback. They were down 12-0 to Bryant at halftime, but they stormed back with 29 second half points to win. Brown with the impressive win last week against 8th ranked URI. Penn had an impressive win last week against Dartmouth. That's the Ivy League showdown tomorrow. It's Yale and Dartmouth. Who could forget what happened last year between those 2 teams in New Haven? Dartmouth was down 37-16 in the fourth quarter. The Big Green scored 4 touchdowns in the final 7.5 minutes and overtime to pull out a 44-43 win over Yale. The rematch is tomorrow. Jack Ford has no comment on that.
Strangely silent. I was watching that game last year, and as you said, last seven minutes, they put up 4 touchdowns. Dartmouth was unstoppable. And then they got into an overtime, scored, and Yale had a chance to win it. They went for 2 in the overtime, and the pass was just a little too high for the receiver. Dartmouth walked away with a well-deserved win against Yale, the Yale Bull last year.
So Brizio scrambling and throwing and incomplete. You saw the 2 non-conference games tomorrow. Tough ones for the Ivy League teams. Lehigh is ranked 7th in FCS football. They'll be in Manhattan to take on Columbia. And Mercer is ranked 19th, and they'll be at Princeton to take on the Tigers, who we saw beat Columbia last week on Friday night. We are off next week. We'll be back with you at Buddy Teevan Stadium in Hanover, New Hampshire for Columbia and Dartmouth. That's on October 24th. Historic Franklin Field on Halloween night. Do they toss candy and toast?
That will be
as an added tradition on Halloween nights.
But do you and I have to wear costumes? Is that it? Is that
we
going
normally
to be a
do. This is not my normal attire. This is a costume for me. We'll have Columbia and this Harvard team coming up in Manhattan in November before we head to the Yale Bowl for the big showdown between Yale and Harvard on November 22nd, 141st edition of the game. And it's been announced, by the way, that in 2026, Harvard and Yale will not be meeting here in this building. They'll be
interesting
down Storrow Drive at Fenway Park.
Fenway Park. They did it back in, I think it was 2018. There were renovations going on here at Harvard Stadium. And it was interesting. Nobody was sure how it was going to play out. The players loved it. They felt they were in a bowl game. Alums were not so happy with it, but it was a great success. Sellout.
Blitz coming, and down goes Basilpizio. Sean Line came in unblocked. Loss of 9.
I gotta tell you, that was a tough hit, but I am really impressed with Basilpizio. Got a twist up front. Guy who was a free runner afterwards. Nobody picked him up. Gets hammered, but this kid, number 8, has been tough. He's hung in there. He's delivered balls under pressure. He's used his legs to convert plays. He's had good throws. I think at this point in time, Cornell has found their quarterback, and maybe they've found themselves a bit in terms of their offense.
They'll punt it away. It will roll inside the 30 and maybe reach the 25, which it will. You mentioned before that you love being here, you know, on Fridays because you can watch Saturdays. We like to say hello to all those who watch Friday before the Saturday games are played. We feel like, you know, we're just getting you started for a
warming them up.
Big weekend of football.
Warming them up for this, and this is a fantastic weekend.
Starts at noon Eastern time. SEC on ABC. College football tripleheader, Bama and Mizzou. And then it is the Red River rivalry game at Cotton Bowl in Dallas. 6th-ranked Oklahoma, unranked Texas. 7:30 Eastern time. Georgia and Auburn will wrap it up at Jordan-Hare. So it's a 24-point lead for Harvard. They came out on that first drive in the third quarter, and then you talked about the former O-lineman. I thought the offensive line really started to establish things right from the start of the second half for Harvard. You saw they went to the run game. They've had a couple of big plays through the air from Craig as well, but I think it started there for Harvard in the third quarter.
You're right. You look at those 5 guys as interior offensive linemen, and I think that it's fair to say they pretty much took over the game coming out here in the third quarter.
Bascone is brought down at the 27-yard line. Howard on the stop. Won't quite take us down to the 2-minute warning, as Harvard will have to snap it one more time before the 2-minute timeout. Third down play coming up for the Crimson. One final non-conference game to come for Harvard next week. They will host Merrimack, an independent in FCS football this year. They're 3-3 right now. And after that, at Princeton, and then Harvard will host Dartmouth, which always tends to be an entertaining game between those two. Harvard and Princeton as well. Back to the ground, DJ Gordon. He's got a couple. Now we'll get us inside of 2 minutes. 2-minute timeout here at Harvard Stadium. Back for the final few ticks here as Harvard is on their way to their 4th win. 34-10 as we wrap things up here at Harvard. We've talked quite a bit about it so far, about the big change coming for Ivy League teams. December it was voted that they're eligible for postseason play, NCAA playoffs. We'll tell you about a little wrinkle for these programs after this punt by Harvard as they kick it away to Cornell. Will hit the turf, and Lee will let it roll inside the 30. That's where it'll come to a stop. For years and years and years, back to when Jack played, you could look at the Ivy League schedule and it is a tight 10 games. But this year, and this is from the game notes for Harvard, it would end at Yale in the past, but now it's like, well, keep your schedule open for November 29th or December 6th.
I just think
you
that's
get
great.
the point.
I think it's great.
Football playoffs.
Build in your confidence. We're allowed to play now, and you know what? We plan on being there, so here's the schedule. Make your flight arrangements right now, and make sure you come join us.
It starts with being the regular season champs, the Ivy League champions, because there's not an Ivy League playoff for the teams. It's not like the top 2 teams are going to play for the spot. If you win the regular season, that's the thing that hasn't changed. We've talked about it for years. You win the championship, and there could be, like we've had the last 2 years, a 3-way tie. And then after that, you go to the tiebreakers that Jack told us last week. Goes out to an 8-team tie.
Of course, it's the Ivy League. They gamed it out to if they have an 8-team tie at the end of the season.
Jordan Triplett getting the handoff. And he's brought down. It'll take us inside of a minute to go. So for the quarterback for Cornell, making his first career start here today, Beto Basilpizio, the junior from San Diego, 18 of 30 passing, 127 yards, was sacked 3 times. He did rush it for a team high 16 times for a net of 30 yards as this Harvard run defense, as you talked about at the very top of the telecast, Jack, giving up just 70 yards a game in the first 3 games of the season. Well, tonight they've given up 61, so that number's going down. Up to about the 39-yard line. We told you what was ahead for Harvard. For Cornell, they'll host Bucknell in their final non-conference game, and then they'll host Brown, and they'll host Princeton. So some time at home for the Big Red at Chillicothe Field before back on the road at Penn and at Dartmouth.
Chillicothe Field, by the way, one of the great college football venues in this country.
Cornell will let the clock run out. Gave it a good fight, but in the end, Harvard showing that they are one of the very best teams, not just in the Ivy League, but in FCS football. They had to work for it tonight against Dan Swanstrom's team. The Crimson, though, win it by a final score of 34-10. Wasn't perfect for Jaden Craig tonight. 21 of 37, had his first interception of the season, had the touchdown pass and a touchdown run, 237 yards.
But you know what he did, what the great ones did? He showed up when they needed him, right? So you got the long pass on the one drive that gets him there. You got him tucking it under, going around the right edge for the touchdown when they needed his legs there. So up against, and they had said to us, the Harvard coaches said, they had a lot of respect for this Cornell defense. And I think the Cornell defense showed up. Yeah, we said before, the score is what the score is, 34-10. I don't think it feels like that. And if you're Cornell, I think you can come away from this saying, all right, we did some good things tonight.
Well, let's see what Andy Ulrich thinks. Does it feel like a 34-10 final to you, Andy? It felt a lot tighter up here. What was it like for you on the field tonight, Andy?
Yeah, it definitely felt a lot tighter than 34-10. Credit to them. Those guys played really, really hard, and they had us reeling there. But as my former boss used to always say, great defenses create takeaways, and elite defenses score touchdowns. So that was really the big difference, those two touchdowns we had on defense. So ultimately we get out here with the win, but there's a lot that we're going to want to clean up on both sides of the ball.
We talked before about how so much of the attention has been placed on this Harvard offense, and for good reason, in these first three games. And I think people were not paying attention to how good this Harvard defense was. You know, you talk statistically, right, number 4 in the nation, giving up only 13 points a game. That number's going to go down. We talked about the rushing yardage, 2 in the nation, giving up only 70 yards. That number's going to go down. And yet, this is, in some ways, you can say it's almost a brand new defense in terms of personnel. How has it, with all of those changes and all those new bodies coming in, how has it become elite?
Yeah, credit to the coaches. Coach Larkey does a great job, and credit to the players that had to step up into new roles this season. We're playing a ton of guys in the front 7, a ton of guys, and there's no drop-off if we have the first group or the second group in there. So just really happy with that unit, and they play super hard. They are bought into creating takeaways and disrupting the football, and it's showing up on tape every game.
I know we're talking to a former offensive lineman, but this is your chance, whether you like it or not, to give some praise to your O-line, because it seemed like you came out of the locker room in the second half, and they looked like they were trying to take control up there. What was your view of it?
Yeah, there was definitely glimpses of it in the first half where we knew we could control the line of scrimmage there, and then, you know, a holding penalty here gets us off track, and all of a sudden now we can't just lean on the run game. So we definitely had moments that we kind of took it over in the run game, which was great to see. But I'm not happy because there was time on the clock there, and we could have finished with the ball, and we didn't execute well enough to do that. So there's definitely stuff we need to clean up front.
This is a good thing for a 4-0 team that's 2-0 in the Ivy League, that you got a lot of things on film that you're going to point out to this team, it looks like, Andy.
100%. That game was not the standard that we want to play at, and these guys know that. So I know they'll be ready to work on Sunday, because they get tomorrow off because we're playing on Friday.
But you don't get tomorrow off because coaches never get the day off.
Yes, we do.
Oh,
yes,
you do?
We do.
Oh, excellent.
Yes,
it's going to be a perfect fall day in New England.
Exactly.
Enjoy it with the family.
I will.
You taking the kids apple picking?
We will be at the farm doing apple picking tomorrow.
I
Wilson's Farm in Lexington.
All right. Shout out to them. Shout out to you, 4-0. Congrats. We appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations. Take care, Coach.
It's always good when you can fix some things out of a win.
Yeah. And he was honest about it. He said, look, it's a win. Yeah, we did some good things. The defense did some great things, but there's some things we got to clean up if we expect to run the table here.
They are 4-0, 2-0 in the Ivy League. Cornell falls to 0-4 and 0-2 in the Ivy League. We'll be with you.
But I think Cornell's going to come back home and look at this and say, you know what? We might be okay. This is the first step to getting okay.
We're off next week.
Yes.
You want to go apple picking? We can.
Oh, yeah.
Eric Freed, Jack Ford, and our crew. See you later.